Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, with the Trump tariffs pending, we get advice for small businesses who could be hit hard. With no public transit, it's hard for many to get around, to get to work, to shop, to visit friends. District of Muskoka looking to change that with a door-to-door transit service. We get the details. Barrie Colts in a mid-season slump will pay our weekly visit to the stable for an update. We get the conversation started after this. Lots of talk about the Trump tariffs, what the impact might be, and how Canada will fight back. Not a lot of talk about how Canadians, in particular small businesses, will cope. Beverlee Rasmussen is talking about it. She's a small business coach and trainer based in British Columbia. Barrie 360's Ian MacLennan is bending her ear.
Well, Beverlee, President-elect Donald Trump has made it very clear he's going to impose 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And small businesses, small business owners, they have to take this as he means business, so to speak?
Absolutely. These are the facts. We have volatile days ahead, and it's not a time to be thinking, oh, well, we'll wait and see what happens. It's time to really have a look at your business and see how this is going to impact you.
You've indicated one of the things businesses need to do is put cash in the bank. Why is that so critical?
Yeah, just based on a couple of recent events, the 2008 crash, of course, and the pandemic, and my own business experience, is no one will loan you money when you have no money. So now might be a good time to just put that money aside. If you need to take out a loan, get that money aside so that you can ride out whatever's coming ahead, because we don't know what that's going to look like.
And how do you make those preparations, though?
Well, it really goes back to, again, small business owners are really busy. They wear lots of hats, and often they don't have everything in the business itself completely organized and kind of up to date. So this is a really good time to stop, take the afternoon off, make sure that your books are up to date. You know exactly what you're dealing with. The impact, could be small, but it could be big. Even if it's the manufacturing industry is impacted, which can impact the construction industry. And so get off the tools, take some time and be strategic and have a look and see what's going to happen there. And then you can decide, if you know that this is going to be potentially a 20% reduction in sales, or, for example, if you're a coffee shop and you're next to a manufacturer that is potentially going to shut down. So you're going to need to really look at where you're going to need to cut. How much, if your sales go down by 50%, what does that look like? It's just about small business owners knowing their business well enough to be able to at least make some good decisions ahead.
Now, you also talk about diversifying your suppliers and customers rather than just the United States, which I think, a lot of us think, well, it'll always be there. They're my friend. Why is it so critical to expand that search for other outlets and other markets?
I've always recommended that to my small business owner clients, is to look, where else are Canadian products really welcomed, and where can you get products other than just one supplier in the U.S. or in some cases in China. I know Europe is standing by and they love Canadian products, and the euro is very strong and the Canadian dollar is obviously very weak. So we have a program in Canada called the Can Export Grant. We have a great export development teams that can help Canadian small business owners learn how to do business in other countries. And I think small business owners think, well, I'm just a small company. I've got 20 employees. What's that for me? But it's there for everyone, even from a small company up to 100 employees is a small business in Canada, by the way. So we're talking about 50% of all businesses in Canada being impacted here. And
small businesses, Canada is working obviously with trying to open up to Asian markets and beyond. Again, how does a small business owner get on board that train, so to speak?
I think really staying connected with your local chambers of commerce, meeting up with other business owners, being involved with your industry associations. There's got to be lobbying. We all have to work together on this, because each individual business owner isn't going to solve the problem by themselves. So it's a time to get together, find out what others are doing, sit down, have that coffee, and say, okay, well, this is what I'll give you an example. When I owned my own business, I owned a travel agency, and that year the airlines decided to stop paying us commission. So I lost 70% of my revenue in one day. And that same time, the next 3 months, 39% of every agency went out of business. But a bunch of us decided to work together, and we figured out this is where fees came from with travel agents. If you pay fees now, you can thank me for that. And we implemented fees, went around, helped all the other businesses transition to that process, and our revenue went up 11% that year. So business is a bit of just math. It's a fortitude, and small business owners are already tenacious and courageous, and they've got the guts and the grit to do this. So this is another huge, big challenge, and it's time to put those boots on and get to work. And we don't know exactly what we're dealing with, but at least having a strategy, being prepared, knowing the facts, having the cash, and then also maybe looking at where you might need to cut once you have the data in front of you.
And I was going to mention that you referenced being prepared to make cuts. Are we talking layoffs? And I guess again, is it crystal balling right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things I noticed after the 2008 crash, trying to pick up the pieces from business owners that had hung on to employees for too long. We do have safety nets in Canada, unemployment insurance, and different processes. But small business owners are really kind, and they don't want to lay off their friends and their employees, and they're worried they're going to lose them, but to the detriment of the business. So those businesses end up going into big debt, CRA debt, all kinds of different ways just to hang on to people. So one of the things is to really have a look. How much money per month are you willing to lose? Are you willing to take off your own personal line of credit or from a loan? Or you really need to make that decision just before, it's the oxygen mask. Put the oxygen mask on the business first, so that these people have a job to come back to when this thing all settles out. And it will all settle out. It always does.
The small business owners have already been impacted by the pandemic, some still coming out of it in terms of dollars and cents, and they've had to navigate that. How different is that than tariffs being imposed, or do they have some armor on already because they've been through the challenge of a pandemic, or is it a different beast?
What I'm hearing a lot is I'm out. I can't do this anymore. I'm surprised at how many, and not surprised how many business owners are saying, we haven't paid back our CEBA loan because we couldn't, and we're paying interest on that, and we're just coming out of that to the end of it, and now this. We had the postal strike, we had the GST tax fiasco, we had inflation, minimum wage keeps going up. It's just on and on. So 2024 was really tough for small business owners. And at the same time, they're the ones that are, they're the ones that are running our communities. They're responsible for half the jobs, and we'll find a way forward.
And I remember when Trump wanted to renegotiate NAFTA, there was, the alarm bells and the panic, and Canada saw through it, and I think was a tough negotiator. Is that what you're anticipating should Trump go ahead with these tariffs?
Yeah, I think the word I was thinking is of some volatility at the beginning and unknown, and then some kind of wrangling. Again, it's difficult because we have a different government situation that's a little bit volatile as well. Not a little bit, but a lot. Not getting into politics, but that's definitely plays into it. I'm holding on. We'll see. Oh Canada, right?
This is what Barrie's talking about from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely, going to head up the road to Muskoka. We have with us the chair of the District of Muskoka, Jeff Lehman, with us. Welcome back to the program.
Nice to be here.
Wanted to talk to you about transit because you have experience dealing with transit when you were mayor of Barrie, and that's a different animal. But you're trying to get some things done in the District of Muskoka because it's such a vast area, doesn't have a really great transit network.
That's right.
But you've got an experimental thing happening in Gravenhurst.
Yeah, we got something cool started. So first of all, great to see Barrie Transit hit 4 million riders. Mm-hmm. That's a target we never would have dreamed of 10 years ago. Really nice to see the changes over the years and the investment now paying off. And that's a lesson I took to Muskoka as well. Transit's one of those services that if you make it convenient for people, they will use it. If it's inconvenient, if it's standing out in the cold for half an hour or it takes an hour and a half to get anywhere, only the people who need to are going to use it. You want people who to choose to use it. So to that end, in Muskoka, we get this really cool thing called demand responsive transit, which is basically like Uber. You book it. You can book it over the phone, but you can also use an app. You book a ride. The bus shows up at your door, picks you up, takes you to your destination, to the door. If you schedule it in advance, it gets rid of the waiting kind of situation, and that's at a transit fare, not an Uber fare. So it's $5. We're just starting with this, but we've seen some really good early success. The way it works right now is if you're trying to get to Gravenhurst, we'll pick you up in most of South Muskoka. You can book it online. The vehicle's like a van, an oversized van. So think of it more like a van pooling kind of service. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But the district's job is to move people around an enormous territory. There's 5,000 square kilometers in Muskoka. And if you don't have a car, it is very, very hard to get to work, to get to appointments, even to go grocery shopping. And so that's the idea. So it's still in very early days, promising results in terms of people's feedback, and our hope is to grow this.
So, a lot of good reaction from the people of Gravenhurst. It is getting used.
Yeah, we've piloted it. Actually, we have a number of people who ride it from the Wataw First Nation into Gravenhurst. We have a number of people from the Kilworthy area on Highway 11 coming up to Gravenhurst, and that's really the district's role. You know, we are trying to connect communities. There is transit within Bracebridge and Huntsville. We're working with Gravenhurst to see if we can maybe collaborate on something in town. But the primary job for us, you know, we've had the Highway 11 corridor bus for years, but with modest ridership, admittedly. So we're trying to make it that much more convenient for people. I learned in Barrie, it takes time. You know, you can make changes and tick people off, and it doesn't work right away. You can even feel like, uh-oh. But I will tell you, this one's had a good response right from the start. And we know it will take time to build those numbers from hundreds to thousands to hopefully tens of thousands. But that's the goal. Make it as convenient as possible for people and give them a way to get around a big district.
Are you talking hundreds at this point? Hundreds of people are using it?
Well, yeah, and that's the sort of thing. I mean, we don't get bus loads of people in Muskoka. What you're trying to do is move van loads of people and trying to do it at different times. What we're trying to do as well is get people signed up so that we can get feedback from them and try and help them, integrate the transit into their other routines. And there's all an alignment with other services. And oddly enough, that's something else that happened in Barrie, License to Ride, which was a program that linked rec centers and transit passes. You got a pass to both. We're looking at how we can integrate with municipal services and other services in Muskoka. And that includes, for us, the district, social services, because we're the social service provider. And we know there's lots of folks who can't afford a car. I mean, it is expensive, very expensive these days, right?
You said $5 a ride?
Yeah. Yep.
And you could be riding by yourself, or you could have some other people to chat with.
Usually you'll have at least a few other people in the van. It's very rare that you're in there by yourself. But what the app does is it actually lines up rides. So, if we've got somebody to pick up in Kilworthy, it will say, it will push, the next ride a little further up the highway. It'll push a message saying, well, we can pick you up 10 minutes later and take you both into downtown Gravenhurst. We'll get a group of people from, a place like a senior's residence and take them to several different destinations. And the app actually is very clever that way in scheduling the ride for the driver.
So if I'm in Kilworthy and I want to go and shop in downtown Gravenhurst, and I'm ready to go home again, how fast do I need to make that
great
call
question.
or get onto the app to get my ride home?
Sure. So you've got two options. One is you can give yourself a fixed amount of time, and the bus will be there when it says. So I'm going to go grocery shopping, pick me up at 9, take me to the grocery store, and then pick me up again at 11 o'clock because I need an hour and a half to shop. You can, when you're done shopping, just go on the app and book the ride, but you are admittedly going to wait quite a bit longer because you have to wait for a vehicle to be able to service that ride. And right now, we don't have a lot of vehicles. The goal will be that we'll have a fleet here, and eventually it will start to operate more like an Uber system where it's going to link you to the nearest driver, and the driver will accept the ride and take you home, and that'll shorten the wait times. So right now we tell everybody best to book it, best to schedule your trips. But if you do that, you can get a ride around Muskoka for $5. And we're talking about a district where even going between two of the towns can cost you $100 by private transportation.
So how far afield can you get on this transit service from Gravenhurst? Can you get to like Bracebridge or Huntsville?
Yeah, so you can get into Gravenhurst from a lot of the south part of Muskoka, but this is just the initial pilot. We will eventually serve the entirety of the district, and we're going to roll it out in stages. But the other thing, the district's run the Corridor 11 bus for years, and that's Highway 11 from Washego all the way up to Huntsville. And, you can connect to that through the demand responsive system as well. So if you need to go from Kilworthy up to Huntsville to do some shopping, go to an event, go to the hospital, whatever it might be, this service can connect you to the Corridor 11 as well.
All right. So $5 a ride, which is great.
Yeah.
And there's an app that you have to get onto in order to do that. Tell us how you go about that.
Super simple. You can go online and sign up for the app, create a profile, takes about 2 minutes. You can also call us. We recognize there's lots of folks who use transit that might not be able to use the app, so you can book these rides by phone as well for the scheduled service. But yeah, the easiest thing to do is just go online, check it out on Muskoka's website, muskoka.on.ca.
All right. On another matter, you guys have got pounded by winter this year so far, just before Christmas. And as we speak, you're getting some more. This has been an interesting winter. And I remember talking to David Phillips from Environment Canada when we flipped from fall to winter. And he said lake effect snow was going to be a big issue this year, and it has been.
Has it ever been? It's the snowmaking hose that hits central Ontario, and if that hose points at you for a few days, it can bury you, and that's what happened to us right at the start of December. Gravenhurst was sort of ground zero, but all of South Muskoka sort of got hit. And, the problem with the lake effect stuff, those squalls, is it comes so fast that it can trap people on the highway, and it is very difficult even for well-equipped municipalities like us or the MTO to keep the roads clear. And so that's why you hear the OPP say don't travel. And I think the event at the start of December, though, was really unprecedented in a couple of ways. I mean, we basically got an entire winter's worth of snow in a little over 2 days. Town had to declare a state of emergency. But we got a ton of help with that event. York Region, Peel, Simcoe, lots of places sent us help. And, there's this informal thing that doesn't get talked about except at difficult times like this, which is that places help each other out. Municipalities just call each other and offer help. Power companies call each other and offer help. And that's what's needed sometimes to cope with the intensity of storms these days. But we are anticipating that if not a new normal, then there's going to be more of these, what we used to think was unusual kind of events. And there's a couple of things that are different. One is they're more intense, just more precipitation in a shorter period of time, rain in the summer, snow in the winter. But the other thing is the temperature swings, right at New Year's. We had torrential downpours above zero for 2 days and then terrible snow for a couple of days after New Year's. And that combination is really rough. It's rough on infrastructure. It's obviously very difficult for people who have to walk around with icy sidewalks, and it just makes life tough.
So I'm guessing that this is going to lead into much broader discussions at council levels and how carefully you have to watch weather systems and trends and what is actually happening. As David Phillips always talks about the winter of our youth, and we haven't seen those for a while, but we seem to be getting that this year.
Yeah, we do. Yes, we're going to have to pay more attention to this going forward. I mean, one of the good things is, you got Instant Weather Ontario, the guys out of Barrie here, Adam, who sort of set up their own amateur network that's now quite professional and a professional app that gives us warning. Obviously, Environment Canada and the other weather services out there are able to give us a little more accurate, a little more lead time, more precision on what is going to happen. And that's very actually helpful for us because we need to make choices about when our crews go out, when they get rest, where we pre-position resources, where we go out and pre-wet roads, depending on the exact temperature. It is a science. But with climate change, there's no question that we are seeing more severe weather. And I think one of the things that the district, and Simcoe and other areas in central Ontario need to do is prepare for the unique weather we get here. I mean, we get weather that's different than any other part of this country because of the lake effect stuff off the Great Lakes and because of things like Tornado Alley. And so we really do need to prepare for that. And unfortunately, we're probably going to have to prepare for more of it, not less.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And again, depending on which way the wind blows, and it can shift very quickly, and that's when we see all the complaints about, well, that was a storm warning and we never got it. Well, the other side of the street might have gotten it, or the backyard might have gotten it, because that's just the way it works around here.
100%. I don't envy the people who make decisions around school buses, because according to Facebook, they are always wrong, and they're not. I mean, they've got the same information or close to it. I think that we have, and they're trying to guess where that snowmaking hose is going to make it dangerous to transport kids in a school bus, and that's a difficult thing to do. And I know they err on the side of caution almost always. I mean, we almost never see complaints about why the heck did the buses go out today. We usually see the opposite, like, why did they take them off the road? It's blue skies. Well, you're right. That's because it can go from blue skies to a whiteout in a matter of minutes with this weather pattern.
Or it's fine in the morning, but we're anticipating something for the afternoon, and
right.
we have to get the kids back from school.
Yeah, that's right. They got to look ahead 6 hours, and even with the more precise information, it can change. Yeah.
You talked about getting help from other municipalities, but you've got some pretty good people within that district who jump in when need be, and not the least of which are hydro linemen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting in Muskoka because you've got 4 different power companies that provide service in different areas, and they do help each other with the local crews. But we also do get help from our neighbors when need be. I think hydro linesmen in many ways have one of the toughest jobs with the change in weather, because ice is the enemy of the power grid, and it's very dangerous and difficult to do that work when it's minus 10 and everything's covered in snow and ice to try and restore power. But it being a rural area and smaller towns, it can be a long way between customers. So people had to be patient in December, and I think it was very tough on a lot of folks. We provided some emergency power in places where the power outages were extended. But it is a bit of a fact of life living in Muskoka that you have to be prepared that, unfortunately, at times the power goes out. And in a severe situation, it can be days, not hours, before it's restored. But that's not for lack of trying or lack of resources. I think those companies, by and large, do a great job.
And we talk about the hydro linemen, but that trickles right down to just ordinary residents and business people chipping in to help 100%. Out with food and shelter and other things.
Yeah, and we saw that in the early December, the snowstorm. I mean, people were there were a couple of businesses that opened up for food for people that were trapped on the highway, and certainly everybody found accommodation in places maybe they weren't expecting to have to stay for a while at different times. I mean, I think I've always thought that Central Ontario, people who live in Central Ontario have an extra level of resilience, perhaps more than, dare I say it, folks who live in the Greater Toronto area, because we have to. I mean, it comes with the territory. But it also, it also comes from, if you enjoy the outdoors more, if you're a kind of 4 seasons person and you live in a 4 seasons community, then you're prepared a little more and you roll with the punches a little bit more. So, life went on. I mean, and one example of that I would give is we did set up a emergency center at the Centennial Arena in Gravenhurst for people who were stuck. And within a day or two, it became a warming center, and then we shut it down a few days later because people managed to find a way, and they got help, and we got help to them. But they found a way, and even people who can struggle in the snow often get help from their neighbors and so on.
Good luck the rest of the winter.
Thank you.
Good luck with the transit.
Thank you. We're looking ahead to a great 2025.
Rough start to the new year for the Barrie Colts, a 4-game losing streak, but no need to panic. Not yet, says Colts broadcaster and writer Gene Pereira. He's with Barrie 360's Will Conkin.
Gene, a tough week for the Colts, have a 4-game losing skid for the club. Things were looking good, had made the big trade with North Bay that we talked about last week and got into the top 10 for the CHL rankings. Teams they recently lost to include the Owen Sound Attack, Peterborough Petes, and Kitchener Rangers. Gene, what's going on with the guys?
Yeah, Will, that's a good question. I mean, definitely they went into Owen Sound, a 5-2 loss, into Peterborough, a 5-2 loss, 2 of the worst teams in the OHL. And, games that you really want to, if you're going to finished first in a tight Eastern Conference standings that are important, and just two efforts that were disappointing to say the least, and they just look flat. And you wonder if it's maybe a little bit of the post-trade deadline blues. Sometimes that can have an effect on a team, but the Colts certainly weren't themselves. And talking to Bo Jelsma after the game, and and he said, look, he goes, I think the game in Owen Sound was their worst effort of the year, and they followed that up with a similar effort against Peterborough. Now, Peterborough's gone on a bit of a tear here. They beat Niagara on Sunday, but, again, certainly two disappointing efforts, and, they followed that up against Saturday against a Kitchener team that, now, look, I mean, they're one of the top teams in the Ontario Hockey League, just really tough to score on. And I think Barrie was a bit better, but, the execution wasn't there, and, it was similar. They just seemed like a little flat, and, hopefully they can get back to that team that beat Oshawa on New Year's Eve that was just really jumping, and, that high-impact game, and but we certainly didn't see that this week from Barrie.
You mentioned execution. Was that what head coach Marty Williamson, was he honing in on that execution?
Yeah, especially against Kitchener. They had some chances, and, you're not going to get many against Kitchener. They just really do a good job at kind of shutting you down. They take away those passing lanes, and, they make you work. And, Barrie wasn't bad in that game. The Kitchener had the empty netter, and they scored the third goal. It was 2-1 going into third, so they were right there. But, again, there wasn't a lot of quality chances, and, Kitchener doesn't give up many, but, again, the power play as well didn't strike, and, it's important, a power play against, Kitchener. Their penalty kill, like Barrie's, those are the top two penalty kills in the Ontario Hockey League, but, Barrie, again, I mean, you can't afford that against a good Kitchener team, but not a bad effort, but I still think not what we've seen from this Barrie team all season.
Do you have any concerns, or whereabouts are you on the worry scale, in a sense, after this?
Yeah, talking to Marty Williamson, you don't want to panic. I mean, it's a 4-game losing streak. It's the longest losing streak of the season, and they've been fairly consistent in the ability to bounce back, and especially against really good teams. And, I think, if it kind of goes into this weekend, then you wonder, okay, what's going on? But, these are young guys. They're going to get a boost, the hope, obviously, with Romani back, but maybe Cole Baldwin will be cleared by the doctors to return to the lineup, and that should be a big boost for them.
For sure. So also in the news, the Barrie Colts, they will retire Kyle Clifford's number 13 jersey. That's happening on February 27th when they play the Saginaw Spirit at Sadlin. He spent 3 seasons with the Colts from 2007 to 2010, appeared in 184 games. Gene, talk about Clifford and his time with the Colts.
Yeah, just really happy to see Kyle get recognized, and just a real down-to-home guy. Ended up getting drafted by the LA Kings, won a Stanley Cup there, and just really a good NHL career. And one of those true power forwards in junior hockey. He was dominant with the Colts, just a real intimidating player, physical, could put the puck in the net, and I always tell the story about a couple of things. First, that he almost made it as an 18-year-old, which is really rare to make as an 18-year-old right into the NHL, and I think he surprised a lot of people. He was a late cut by the Kings, ended up making it the next year, and then, as well, Mike Fuda, who drafted Kyle, I was behind him, sitting behind him in one of the games at Mississauga, and just listening to him rave about Kyle, to a couple of people that he was sitting with, and you could just tell they really loved him and his style, and and again, I mean, Kyle's just one of those guys, really down to earth, and just the type of people that are good people, and I'm really happy for him that he's had a really good career, and talking to him when he first went to LA, I was kidding him around about, he lived right on the beach, and, of course, knowing Kyle Clifford, he was a farm boy, and he said, come on, Gene, I'm a farm boy, none of this beach stuff, so it was great to see him with his career, and he's still playing with the Marlies and still helping them out. Again, just a real happy to see him get recognized.
Very well deserved for sure. So up next for the Colts, they're tonight against the team they traded with, the North Bay Battalion. Van Steensel and Romani will make their return to their old club. Gene, there's probably some emotions for them heading into that one.
Yeah, I think no doubt. We saw earlier with Wakely what it meant returning to North Bay, and those two long-term guys in Romani and Van Steensel. I mean, North Bay is a really good organization, and they had a lot of success in North Bay. And for Romani, here you are, you're playing your first game, and it's going to be back in North Bay, so it'll mean a lot to them. And you always hope that they're going to be ignited, and kind of players like to kind of show well back in their home when they return home. And but I'm sure it'll be a special night. And the way it works out, especially with Romani, Van Steensel had a couple of games here, but it'll be a nice way to kind of say goodbye here. You get back right off the top, and then you get back to I think Romani. He's excited about coming to Barrie and helping them try to win win a championship. So I think it'll be a good way to kind of kick off his return to the ice after a long injury.
The Colts then play the Windsor Spitfires on Saturday at Sadlin, and the Colts then visit the Niagara Ice Dogs for Sunday. What do you make of those two games?
Well, a tough weekend. I mean, again, Windsor, one of the top teams in the Ontario Hockey League, and Niagara's just been playing some great hockey. And, these are big games. I mean, obviously, the Niagara game, two teams are battling atop the Central Division, and then Windsor played well when Barrie visited there, and they really kind of dominated that game. So I'm sure the Colts will look to kind of bounce back from that on home ice, and a bit of a statement game when you play teams like that you want to show that you're one of the top teams. So an opportunity against some real tough opponents to kind of prove that you deserve to be with all the talk among the best teams.
The second half of the schedule continues. Always a pleasure chatting. Gene, till the next one.
Thanks, Will.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Will for their input, to Matt Ladder for his technical touch, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.